Thanks for checking out Inside the Huddle with Three Rivers FCA. Here are your hosts, Andrew Hofer and Tom Sigel.
Welcome to Inside the Huddle with Three Rivers FCA, joined by Andrew Hofer, our area director. I'm Tom Sigel, a field ambassador. Merry Christmas to everybody as we are coming up on the holiday season here, quickly approaches. And we're excited. We had Jarvis Harges on, a former Galesburg athlete, in our last episode, and we've actually kind of continuing a theme, not necessarily by design, but we're going to have on a couple of college athletes coming up and talking about the influence of athletes and just their experiences from high school to college and growing in their faith and influence that they may have and those type of things, Andrew. So we're excited we're going to be filming a couple this week and run them over the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I think it's always good to get the perspective of the students that are out there, the ones performing on the field, on the court. But even more so, we've talked a lot about how our student athletes are so much more bold in their faith now. We're seeing that more often than we've ever seen before, I think. And this week, we're excited to have Mia Kelly on. And Mia was a graduate from Geneseo High School and a really good soccer player, participated in FCA and FCA camp, and now she is actually doing soccer, getting ready for her third season coming up next year at Olivet Nazarene University. So we're excited to hear her perspective and talk about some of her athletic experiences and faith journey, and to see how that translates as to the mixing of faith and sports.
Yeah, like you said, we kind of had the burning question last week about the boldness of athletes and how they're more outspoken. And obviously, Fernando Mendoza winning the Heisman, we talked about his post game after the Big Ten championship, and more than that with him, but from Tebow and the influence of those and how it's grown. So I think we've kind of gotten to where we'll continue into that, I'm sure, in the next couple of weeks as well.
Yeah, and every athlete's got a different story, a different journey, both athletically and definitely in their faith. So it's good to connect to hear their experiences, and hopefully they can share something that resonates with some of our coaches or athletes that are listening. And I know that the athletes that we have coming up have had great journeries, and God's been working in their
And
lives. So
and like you
excited to
said,
hear
different
that.
experiences and different campuses,
Yeah.
how those experiences do um, impact them and how they're different.
Yeah, I mean, and the cultures that they're in a part of, the people and their teammates that are around them are different. So every athlete's got a different walk, and so it's really good to hear their perspective and to see how God's been moving in their lives, and how He's impacted them.
Yep. So excited to talk to Mia this morning.
All right, Mia Kelly coming up. Well, welcome back, everyone. This week we're excited to have uh, ONU, Olivet Nazarene University soccer player Mia Kelly with us. So welcome, Mia.
Hi, thank you guys.
Yeah,
Glad to
we're
have you.
excited
I'm
to
excited
have
to be here.
you. And I know I'm excited because you're an Olivet Nazarene grad, or not grad. I am a grad. You're still attending there right now, but always excited to see the alum represented there. So as we get started, you're a Geneseo graduate. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your athletic journey?
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing sports since I was like a little girl, probably like 3 years old. But going into high school, I played three different sports. I was tennis, basketball, and soccer. And I really just enjoyed getting to kind of dabble in a little bit of everything. But I think soccer is kind of where I really like started to strive.
Yeah, and now going to college. So when you talked about you felt like you were striving in soccer, like what made you decide to pursue soccer at the collegiate level?
Yeah, it's honestly kind of a complete God moment because I had committed to Olivet to study interior and architectural design March of my junior year. And then I had no intention of playing any sport whatsoever. And I was just kind of like, I'm going to focus on my studies and kind of move forward. And then my mom actually convinced me to talk to the coach. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll just give him a shot and see what happens. And then March of my senior year, I actually committed for soccer.
Well, I think that's great, and I also appreciate the multi-sport, aspect of that as well because
Mhm.
I don't wanna speak for you, but I'm sure, like, yes, getting to know different teammates and being those different experiences, in each sport is something that's been very valuable. Is there anything that you maybe learned in the last 2 years, that looking back, like you said, you didn't have plans to participate in any sports, but, I think we all get to college or get out of college and look back and say, "I wish I would've known this," or some
Mhm.
things I learned. Anything there that stands out for you?
Honestly, I feel like kinda just the fact that, like, we don't really have the plans. I'm a very, like, type A person, and I like knowing exactly what I'm gonna do, when I'm gonna do it.
Mhm.
And, like, I've known I wanted to study interior design since I was, like, a 7th grader, but I think really learning that, like, I really don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know where the Lord's leading me. I mean, last year, I struggled with an injury about mid-season and strained my MCL, not something I really planned or wanted. But I think it just really teaches you to let the Lord lead you and not, what your own plan is, because if you're following your own plan, it's probably not gonna lead you to the place that God's trying to get you.
Mhm. So true.
Yeah, I think we all have those moments in our lives. And talk about that transition from high school to college. When you go from playing a high school sport, you feel like you're playing at a high level, and usually most of the athletes that are going to college are some of the best players, if not the best player on their high school team. What's that like as you transition from the high school to college level?
Yeah, it's definitely a learning curve. I think summer before my freshman year was honestly even harder just because it's so much training. Like, we get our workout packets, and it's like every day you're running, every day you're doing lifts and sprints and all of it. And I think it's just a lot of training that sometimes goes unnoticed, just because not everyone sees you at the track. Not everyone, sees that. And I think a lot of times it's just like, oh, you're playing in the games, and oh, it's like the fun of it. So that was definitely a learning curve, just to like really discipline myself to be doing the workouts that I need to be to prepare myself for season best. And also, kind of like you said, like, I went from playing almost 90 minutes every single game my senior year to kind of really battling for a spot my freshman year, especially. And so I think it's definitely a learning curve of like, you come in and you were kind of top of the line, and then it's like you got to learn to earn your spot again, which can definitely be hard. Not that it's not worth it, but definitely difficult mentally to kind of adjust to that.
Definitely, and I think that, in this day and age, there's so much, social media, D1, and I'm chasing this, that people have looked down on Division III and NAIA at that level and don't realize the commitment and the level of play that is there, and, sometimes I think that sets them up a little bit, and because it's not that student athlete life at the college level, at any level, it necessarily isn't for everyone. And
Mhm.
so, like you said, it's a big jump, and to see you doing well is definitely something that's a huge compliment to you.
Well, thank you.
So I know this upcoming season, for next year, actually, you've been elected or selected as a captain. I think that's a pretty big compliment, especially again at the collegiate level. That means something. How do you feel like the expectations change for you as an athlete now that you're going to be a captain and being a leader?
Yeah, honestly, I think I'm in a very unique position because I think my coach has talked all season like you can be a leader and not necessarily be a captain. And so I think knowing that I embraced that role this year, I played center back this year, and it's a very communicative role where you kind of have to organize a lot because you just see a lot of the field. And so I think knowing that my teammates saw the leader in me when I wasn't the captain kind of just tells me that I need to keep doing what I'm doing, but also maybe be more vocal on the outside, controlling like things off the field, like limiting drama in girls' sports that's so easy to get into. And I think we were very blessed this year to have amazing captains that kind of kept that to a minimum. So just maintaining what they already set for us. Um, and yeah, just being more of a faith leader, I think too. I think as a captain, our coach sets a high standard of us being that leader for the team and being that person that people can go to if they have questions or just need a role model to look up to. And I think that that's something I really hope to embody.
Yes,
Yeah, because
and oh, go ahead, Andrew.
well, I was gonna say, following up on that, like, how do you think, like, for you as a player or as a leader, because not that you weren't a leader prior to being selected a captain, how does that change now? Like, well, what's the next level?
Mhm. Yeah, I think my coach does a really good job as we're captains. We have a lot of training stuff. So off
Mm,
season, outside of our initial team training, us captains will be doing Bible studies together and doing just like leadership training in general. So I think that that will be a big thing. And I think just like honestly getting into my word more and just like knowing the
yeah.
answers to be more well versed in that so that if people do come with questions and need advice, I can give them the best biblical advice I can.
Well, that's what I was gonna touch on. You went right into it, is you talked about this year, the leadership, aspect, and it kinda touching on the field and communicating and calling out what you're seeing, but the influence of a true leader, and now especially in the captain's role, like you said, the more that you have to take on, the influence you'll have over your teams is so often off the field and in the locker room and those type of things, and so, to see you have that impact, is really special. Um, you kinda touched on some of the Bible studies within the team. Can you touch on what there is? Obviously, Olivet might be a different setting than other college campuses, that some of our listeners may attend, but, Christian groups, those activities that you have, on campus there at Olivet.
Yeah, I'm very blessed to go to a Christian school. It's probably one of the biggest reasons that I chose it. And my coach does a very good job of leading us, especially right from the start. You know, as a soccer team, we get there the first week of August. And so it can sometimes feel like a really long semester. But throughout all of preseason, even after two-a-days and everything, we do praise and worship every night in preseason, at least, while we don't have classes. And so that usually starts with a captain or a leader or a coach giving either a testimony or leading a Bible study. And then we sing praise and worship songs and just like have a conversation about it as our whole team. And then leading into season this year, we actually continued that and asked other women's sports to join us. So once
Hmm,
a month, we had a continued praise and worship, which was really awesome to kind of get connected with the other women's sports on campus that we not necessarily would have done. Um, and then just from a Bible study standpoint, we have a new group this year called OC3, and it's our like a student athlete, um, I guess, Bible study. And so all of the student athletes are invited, boys, girls, and we go to our athlete chaplain's house and we do Bible studies there and get to conversate. I think it's twice a month, I want to say, that we go there, and it's a really great opportunity. There's a bunch of other like smaller Bible studies and other ones for non-athletes. I just don't have the time to attend all of them if I'm being honest.
mhm.
So the athletic ones that are kind of already built into my schedule is just very convenient.
Yeah, when I attended, one of the things I always say about going there is that, if you would have to try to not be discipled. You
Mhm.
know, like, you would have to be intentional, like, if you didn't want discipled, you'd have to be intentional about it. So I know that there's plenty of opportunities, and, you mentioned earlier that, part of your role as being a leader is gonna be diving into the Word and really trying to prepare yourself to be able to answer questions and to talk and pour into the other students around you as you get ready, to prepare for that role. Like, what would be I know this is gonna be weird, but what would be your advice to some of our high school students out there? Because I think that they have that opportunity to do something very similar, but sometimes it's hard to take that step out in faith and do that.
Mhm. Yeah, like, are you saying, like, as a faith-wise,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, from a faith
comparison?
perspective.
Yeah, I think it's really just about discipline, honestly. I think in every schedule, especially athletes, it's so easy to use busyness as an excuse. But in reality, like busyness is like one of the easiest ways that the devil can get to us because if we're not running towards Christ, we're essentially walking away. And I think that that's like the biggest thing to remember of just like not using busyness as an excuse and really being intentional. Even if you're tired or after a long day, to sit down and get into the Word. I think it's really easy because I think, like you said, social media has such an impact, and all we see is like that good side of like, oh, they're on a Jesus high, or oh, they're like so often in their word, but there's so many days that I'm missing my Bible studies or that I'm like, oh, I'm too tired and I went to sleep. And I think just reminding yourself to start over the next day and really choose Christ each and every day.
Yeah, I think you kind of touched on it, but I think busyness is one of the biggest sins in our society. And
Mhm.
the things that we're doing are not necessarily inherently sinful, but when you take all of those things and they fill up every block of your life, and then it blocks out Christ, now is where it becomes sinful. And, I think we're all guilty of that at times where we get caught up in all the things of life and that becomes a replacement for Christ. And you have to be so intentional about it, especially for you guys as college athletes. If you're not intentional about it, it doesn't get done. And so, like, I know, even know with my schedule, if I don't do my quiet time and devotions in the morning, it's going to be a struggle to get it done. So I appreciate
Mhm.
your intentionality and purpose when it comes to making faith number one.
So me, we've kind of been talking about it a little bit, but I know Andrew brought it up before. Last week we talked with our guest about how athletes have been bold and with they get a microphone stuck in their face and they're sharing their faith these days. Um, how have you seen that? Obviously, on your campus, like we just talked about, we a lot of like-minded people, but your perspective on why is that becoming more prevalent these days? Do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think we're really in a season of revival right now. As athletes and as just people in general, I think we're really in a state where a lot of, at least this season, we've talked about a lot of spiritual warfare going on. And I think it's causing a lot of people to step out and realize that if you're not being bold in faith, then are you really demonstrating your faith to the fullest of your abilities? And I think people are being called to really speak Jesus whenever they can. And as an athlete, especially, something one of my teammates talked about this year that I think really stuck out to me was I've always heard like you're playing for an audience of one, like you're playing for Christ and
Mhm,
Christ alone. But she said, like, you're playing for a audience of one on a stage of all. And so as an athlete,
Yeah.
we have an opportunity to play in front of however many people that our sport allows. And I think that it's an amazing way to demonstrate our faith because it's so easy in a competitive area to just get so focused on winning and playing at your best and being the best athlete you can be. But in
mhm.
reality, it's merely an opportunity and a platform to speak Jesus into so many different lives and to just really demonstrate that our sport's merely just an avenue that we can reflect who the Lord and Savior really is.
Yeah. And I think, when you're in college, you get people from all different walks of life, all different points in their life, whether their journeys coming up athletically were different, and certainly their journeys spiritually were different. And I'm sure there's a misconception that everyone who's at a Christian campus like Olivet, that everyone is a Christian or believer, and that's not true. And so, like, being able to be bold in your faith and step out is vital. And so, like, as you become a leader now, or not become, but like continue that leading role and grow into that, like, how would you how would you adjust that as you know that you've got teammates coming from all different walks? Like, does that change how you interact with your teammates?
Yeah, I think it does. And honestly, I don't know that I entirely realized how different all of our walks were until this year. One of our captains gave a testimony how she like barely even knew Christ until walking onto campus her freshman year. And so I think it's really valuable to understand that because I mean, I even had that misconception that like, oh, everyone on my team is Christian and everyone believes. But I think what was really cool is realizing like I think they're all believers now, but knowing that like coming in they might not have been. And I think that it's really powerful that now as a captain, next year I'll be able to lead Bible studies and like share my own testimony and just like be that leader and be that person that could be the one that turns that teammate to Christ.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you one final question that wasn't scripted here. Okay, so
It's not who she got her athletic ability from, mom or dad, is it?
no, I'm not going to put you on the
No.
hot spot there. We don't want to embarrass your dad, so we don't.
Yeah.
So, so we're getting ready to promote FCA camp here really soon, and starting a new one at the University of Dubuque next year, the Tri-State FCA camp. you had the privilege to be able to attend camp for multiple years. Like, what would your advice be to any student thinking about attending FCA camp this upcoming summer?
Do it, do it, do it. I mean, honestly, I think I went for 5 years, and I had some of the best experiences of my life, and I think a common misconception in high school is like, "Oh, you need, like, a buddy to go with you." But the first 3 years that I went, I didn't know anybody going into the soccer program. It was just like, "I'm gonna do it," because I absolutely adored it, and I think you're getting amazing training as an athlete, but you're getting even better training as a spiritual, like, person, and I think that that's so much greater that we're able to combine sports and faith so easily, um, and yeah, it's just amazing. You make connections. I'm still friends with some of the people that I met back on year 1, and I just think that that's super powerful that you can make connections that last a lifetime in a spot that you're so young even attending.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. So, Mia, we wish you all the best stepping back on campus. I'm sure you're glad finals are done and, and get a little break and be home. Uh, but just like you said, the influence that you can have and so impressive with what you brought to the podcast today, and with your the remainder of your career and bright future ahead. So we appreciate you being on for this week.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you guys asking.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and we know that we'll be praying for you and lifting you up, and looking forward to following the rest of your athletic journey.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep.
All right,
Thanks again, Mia.
Bye.
Well, it was great to hear from Mia and hear about her perspective and how her athletic journey has been going from the high school level to the collegiate level. And really enjoyed hearing her talk about the difference that it takes when you become a leader. I think you and I have talked several times, both on air and off air, that it is different. It's not the same. When you take that role of a leader, whether it's as a player or as a coach, it changes. And it was great to hear from Mia on that perspective, both from the athletic standpoint and from a spiritual standpoint.
Yeah, and this is another one of those episodes where we kind of start off with a direction, and based on our guest, end up talking about some other interesting topics. And I think that yes, with her experience and her role, it did kind of lead into the leadership and setting the example. And I think that that's one of the things I'd always heard, and it took some thought when I heard it. But to be a good leader, you have to be first a good follower, and I think that that does help as a leader to understand um, those that you're leading. And I think that in our coaches huddle, talking about the different roles of assistant and head coach, and that the expectations of being the head coach or that leader um, are raised, and the pressure. You can sit back and offer a lot of suggestions as the assistant. um, and nobody really knows or comes after you when it doesn't work. But that head coach situation is, and her role and seeing her develop that, and I think obviously has some natural leadership skills that she's using there at Olivet is impressive.
Yeah, and Mia touched on it. It doesn't, like, for most people, the leadership doesn't just come to them. Like, she's had people who have poured into her, whether it's her parents, other teammates, and definitely coaches. And now she talked about how their head coach kind of set that culture, both from an athletic standpoint and spiritually. And then there's been other athletic leaders before her who have kind of helped lead the way. And that's in one sense athletically, that's training up leaders, and in another sense spiritually, that's discipleship. And now pouring into her is now allowing her and has trained her up to be ready to take that next step as she becomes a captain next year. And now she's, got a plan, an intentional plan.
Hmm.
And I love being able to hear from her, like, you know what, like, here's what this means to be a leader. Here's how I'm going to keep developing so that I can really lead. And it takes a lot of intentionality. It takes time and effort to kind of go above and beyond, and to be able to better communicate with the people around her. Because when you're in sports, just like life, you get people from all different walks of life, and you've got to be able to learn to communicate with different people. You got to understand that people have different backgrounds and journeys, And when you are a leader, that takes a lot of understanding. It takes a lot of time to be able to meet people where they're at.
Yes, and connect, and they're motivated differently or they
Yeah,
learn differently, and, like you said, the expectation of, if you're the best player on the team or you're the captain, then you show up on time. You set that example. You touch the line in sprints or whatever it may
yeah,
be. Um, yeah, you have a positive attitude, and we all know that we fall short. Um, Sometimes, the captain does have a moment where their attitude isn't great, or as a coach, we mess up and we have to live up to that and apologize to our team. And just like in our Christian walk, the expectation. But when you know that those expectations are on you, um, it should be a motivator. It should be something that pushes you to be your best and set that example. Things that we kind of joked about a little bit, but the stuff that on social media you see educators posting that is just shocking that you're professional, you're the teacher, you're the leader. We'd like to not see some of that stuff, but I think, like you said, that being in those positions is something that is a motivator that should drive us to try to be our best. But we don't always live up to it, but it's better than, I can go to church on Sunday or I can lead this Bible group, Bible study, and then just totally forget about it and go off the rails on the weekend or something crazy.
yeah. And I think not everyone is cut out to be a leader. And I think societally, we have a hard time understanding that. We have a hard time taking on roles. We talk about the term
Hmm.
role player. Like even within society, we have a hard time not not everyone being cut out for certain roles. And that's okay. Like it's okay that not everyone is. I do think that there is a greater expectation for leaders in both the athletic realm and the spiritual realm because when you're put up in that position where when you're pouring into people, they're going to look at you and how you're acting and how you're speaking and how you're taking your time and spending your time. And if you're going to be a leader and you're going to talk the talk, you better be walking the walk. And so it's when you have that expectation there, I don't know if pressure is the right word, but there is a little bit of
Hmm.
that added element where, hey, if I'm going to be pouring into other people and I'm going to be asking them to do something, I better be the one who's leading out in front. You can't be the one who is saying, "Hey, let me talk to you about Christ," and then you're the one out causing problems on Saturday night constantly. You did mention like we all fall and we all
Hmm.
fall short daily, but we better be taking some intentionality to be able to try to try to lead out in front and not be the one falling behind.
Yeah, we always used to tell our guys there's things that maybe the average student does in the hallway or in the cafeteria that we don't accept that. Our standard was a little bit higher, and so I agree. You said pressure. Um, and I think that's some of it, that you raise that bar for the expectations and the standards to live up to. And like you said, we'll make mistakes along the way. I did the other day.
Well,
No,
and
every day. I'm sorry. I'm just joking.
well, and real leaders, I think, kind of relish that expectation.
Hmm.
It's a you're taking that on knowing what your role is. You know that there is the added sense of responsibility there because you are working with, communicating with, and pouring into so many different people. So when you have that element in your life, there is a greater sense of responsibility, and it's not something that should be shied away from. It should be something that should be taken very seriously and something that you should use as an opportunity every day because you have that opportunity to pour into different people.
Yeah. And I think for teenagers or younger listeners, I don't know if we've talked about any of our episodes, but I know in our coaches huddle it's come up that whether it be that head coach position or that leadership position, sometimes it can be a little lonely
Yeah.
being in that. That's a responsibility. Like you said, not everybody maybe wants to accept that or is necessarily their strength, because having to step out there and do that, maybe you're not always popular, but it's lonely because you're kind of out there on an island at times.
Yeah, and I really appreciated hearing from Mia talking about pouring into her teammates from a spiritual standpoint, talking to them about faith, really focusing on herself as far as like, I have to learn more. I have to dive into the word. I have to be in prayer because I'm going to be having these conversations with my teammates. So it was great to hear about that culture that her team already has and about how there's a plan going forward that, hey, our team, we're trying to strive to get better on the field, but this is a discipleship opportunity and one that we don't take lightly. And so it was really good to hear from her on that and to know that she's accepted that responsibility of being a captain. She
Hmm.
knows what it entails, and now she's putting in the work so that she can be a leader both on the field and spiritually, working with all sorts of different teammates.
Exactly. Well said. Well, and our next episode will be another current college athlete, different setting, different sport, different experiences, and so I'm sure we'll touch on that and maybe bring up the leadership topic. But excited to see where that takes us on our next episode.
Yeah, it should be good. We really enjoy hearing the athlete's perspective. So it's a fun conversation today for sure.
Yep. So again, wishing everybody a Merry Christmas. Probably have another episode actually before Christmas Day. But we appreciate our listeners, those who have subscribed on YouTube or Spotify. We're working on venturing out and being available on other social media outlets as well. But it's something that we're enjoying, and we appreciate you for listening on Inside the Huddle with Three Rivers FCA.
Thanks for watching this episode of Inside the Huddle with Three Rivers FCA. If you have ideas for content or interview suggestions, just reach out to Tom or Andrew. Thanks again for checking out Inside the Huddle with Three Rivers FCA.